For centuries, Sri Lanka has had this incredible reputation as the island of jewels. It's the source of some of the most stunning sapphires the world has ever seen. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? I mean, what is it about this one island that makes it such a powerhouse for creating gemstones? Well, today, we're going to put on our geologist hats, head deep into the Earth's kitchen, and figure out that secret recipe.
So, that's the big question, right? We're going to break down the Earth's secret recipe for making one of these amazing sapphires. And let me tell you, it's a story that involves unbelievable heat, crushing pressure, and this perfect chemical collision happening deep, deep underground. So, let's get started. What are the ingredients we're working with?
Okay, first things first. Before we can start cooking, we need to stock our geological pantry. We have to look at the huge fundamental building blocks of the island itself.
So check this out. Sri Lanka isn't just one big, solid piece of rock. Nope, it's actually made of 3 separate ancient blocks of the Earth's crust that got mashed together millions and millions of years ago. Geologists have a name for these, of course. They're called lithotectonic units. And for our recipe, the one we really care about is that one right in the middle, the Highland Complex.
Just so we're all on the same page, think of these lithotectonic units like the giant bags of flour and sugar in our pantry. They're the main foundational ingredients that everything else is going to be built on. They really set the stage for the main event.
All right, you know how every great recipe needs something to kickstart the reaction? A little bit of spice, or maybe some intense heat? Well, in our case, we're talking about injecting serious heat and some pretty exotic ingredients from way down deep inside the Earth.
And this is where things get interesting. We have 2 totally different types of rock that are about to have a head-on collision. On one side, you've got the local stuff, the crustal rock, which is a type of gneiss that's just loaded with silicon. And on the other side, we have an intruder from the Earth's mantle, an ultramafic rock, which is packed with magnesium. The key thing to remember is that these 2 are basically chemical opposites, and that's where the magic starts.
And when I say an intruder, I really mean it. We're talking about molten rock that got shot up from the mantle into the crust at these blistering temperatures, around 1200 degrees Celsius. I mean, that is just insanely hot. This initial blast of heat basically superheated everything around it, cranking the geologic oven up to max and getting it ready for the real cooking to begin.
So we've got our ingredients, and we've turned up the heat. Now let's zoom in on what I like to call the high-pressure cooker, that exact spot where all these forces smash together to create something brand new.
And this right here is where geologists really hit the jackpot. They've managed to pinpoint these specific spots, like this one called Rupaha, that are like perfect little natural laboratories. Here, deep down in that Highland Complex we talked about, they found the exact contact zone, the place where the mantle rock and the crustal rock are touching.
Okay, I know this cross-section looks a little intense, but stick with me. It's actually pretty simple. If you look at the key, those purple and green zones, that's the ultramafic mantle rock, and it's layered right on top of the beige crustal rock. Now, do you see that thin little line separating them? The one labeled reaction bands? That tiny, razor-thin interface? That's where everything happens. And this is just so cool. You gotta love it when science works out like this. On the left, you see the geologist's diagram. It's their prediction of the different layers they expected to find. And on the right, that's the actual rock they dug up, and it shows those exact same layers. It's a perfect one-to-one match between the theory and the reality on the ground. Amazing.
Because here's the thing. That contact zone isn't just a quiet boundary. Oh no. Under all that heat and all that pressure, it becomes this incredibly dynamic, high-temperature chemical factory.
Now, the fancy scientific term for this whole process is metasomatism. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Imagine you're making soup and you decide to trade some of your salt for your friend's pepper. Both of your soups are going to taste completely different, right? Well, that's metasomatism for rocks. It's a fundamental swapping of chemical ingredients that totally transforms them.
So here's how that chemical swap plays out, broken down into 4 simple steps. First, the 2 different rocks make contact. Second, the heat right at that boundary, which is now settled to a steady 850 degrees Celsius, creates a kind of melt. Third, the invasion happens. Magnesium from that mantle rock starts flooding into the crustal rock. And fourth, as that happens, silicon gets kicked out. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
And this chart shows you exactly what happens next. As that big swap goes down, the amount of magnesium skyrockets while the silicon just plummets. Now think about it. If you take out a major ingredient like silicon, whatever's left behind is going to get super concentrated. And in this case, the rock becomes residually enriched in aluminum. And you're going to want to remember aluminum because it's the key ingredient for what's coming next.
So all this geological cooking, all the mixing, the heating, the swapping of ingredients, it all leads to our final dish, the creation of totally new minerals that just weren't there before.
The chemical changes are so dramatic that they actually create these distinct, separate zones of new minerals. It's honestly like a geological lasagna, with each layer telling a different part of the story of this incredible transformation. Let's take a closer look. So right at the point of contact, in what we'll call Zone A, the very first new minerals start to pop up. What you're looking at here is a microscopic view of the rock. Now don't worry about all the different colors and shapes, just know that this is stage 1. This is where that magnesium invasion begins, creating these first new minerals like phlogopite and spinel.
Then, as we move just a little bit further into the next layer, Zone B, things get really exciting. As more and more of that silicon gets stripped away, the chemistry becomes absolutely perfect for our star ingredient to finally make its grand entrance, corundum. And corundum is the mineral that gives us both rubies and, in our case, sapphires.
And finally, we get to Zone C and D, and here the conditions are just perfect. The silicon is almost completely gone, which leaves behind a chemical soup that is super-duper concentrated in aluminum. With all the right ingredients and plenty of room to work, large, beautiful crystals of corundum can finally grow. This is it. This is the exact moment a gemstone is born.
Wow, okay, so after that wild journey deep into the Earth's crust, let's zoom back out and put this whole incredible story together. We started with that one big question, right? What is the secret recipe? And by learning how to read the rocks, geologists have been able to piece it all together step by incredible step.
And here it is, the secret recipe revealed. You start with 2 rocks that are chemical opposites. You squeeze them under immense pressure. We're talking 9 kilobars, which is like having 30 kilometers of rock sitting on top of you. Then you cook them at around 850 degrees Celsius. You swap out the silicon for magnesium, and what you get is a perfect chemical environment, super rich in aluminum, where beautiful corundum crystals can finally grow.
When you really think about it, it's just incredible. Every single sapphire you see is a tiny, beautiful survivor of this insanely violent, high-pressure, high-temperature journey. It's not just a pretty stone, it's a story of unimaginable pressure, incredible patience, and geologic time, written deep within the Earth. It kind of makes you wonder, what other secrets are still locked away, just waiting for us to learn how to read the rocks?